Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday.
The only one I know of that got confused, the two people were Jenna and John, and John got confused because he asked Jenna, and Jenna was thinking Tuesday. It was always published as tonight, and it was on the website as tonight.
Oh, I hear Nancy.
I hear people, yes, just talking with someone. Two people, hi. Hello.
Hello.
All right, 30 seconds to go. You know?
We have enough for, we have enough for a quorum?
Hello. Yes. Hi, how you doing, Karen? Yeah, well, we can make associates members for purpose of quorum. So,
okay.
we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We've got 9 people here, so you're by hook or by crook, we can have a quorum.
We can make it happen.
They want you up front.
You know what I was wondering?
No.
So they're discussing things tomorrow night, that we can't do tonight, on the select board meeting. And sometimes
I think we're muted.
Let me call the meeting to order. All right, hello, everyone. We're going to get started. Let me take the roll. Debbie Small. Joan Coco.
Yes,
Karen Fotino.
I don't see a,
Karen Panetz.
Here.
Alan Shapley here. I just shut the door so we came in. Karen Janowski here. John Parsons is not. Sally Hoyt.
Here.
Thank you, Phil. Sandy Schaefer. Nancy said she wasn't gonna be able to come. Nancy Twadros.
Here,
Thanks. Hope you're feeling better.
thank you.
Nancy Simlak. Here. Jackie Behenna.
Here.
Ah, there you are. Rosemary Di Benedetto. Gotta
Here.
get it one of these days.
Here.
Beverly Cuneo.
I don't see her
And
either.
Jean Prado.
Here.
Okay. Then we are in session, or whatever the term is for. We can, how many do we need to appoint? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we have 6 full members on here, so we have a quorum of full members. All right. So we're called to order. That's where we are. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the December minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the December minutes? Any corrections? All right, I'll take a vote to approve the December minutes. So Karen Fotino. Still not here. Karen Panetz.
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Karen Janowski, yes. John Parsons is not here. Sally Hoyt,
Yes.
thank you. Sandy Schaefer's not here, and Nancy Twadros.
Yes,
Okay, the minutes are chugging right along here. Recalc liaison updates from John Parsons. John Parsons was not able to join us tonight. I don't know how many of you, if you have not watched last Tuesday, last Tuesday's recalc meeting, I really strongly encourage you to.
Oh, no, is that
Wednesday.
Tuesday? The public forum was last Tuesday.
Last Wednesday's
Wednesday.
recalc
Yes.
meeting. They are working on, you sent out, I know you did, Nancy, you've seen John Sasso's draft report that he's working on. And Nancy and I got together and sent him lots of feedback as well. And the version without Nancy's and my feedback was discussed at the meeting. But they're aware that there are edits. John just hadn't had time to get to it. It wasn't just missing what we had to say. He just didn't have enough hours in the day by that point, and they were aware that it was a really good discussion. something that sort of, in my mind, evolved as the conversation went on is the recognition that, you know, the driving force behind all this was that we need improvements in the senior center, and resulting from that also, it will support expanded senior services as well, and that they've kind of not been focusing on that with all this talk about the intergenerational center, and we've kind of becoming the, oh, well, it's a core thing that will be there, but the language hasn't been about it, the detail hasn't been about it, and concerns started getting raised at this meeting that, you know, it's all well and good, but if we haven't made our first priority in whatever package we put together be the seniors, we have not addressed the problem. And as a few people ventured that, and Nancy, maybe you'd like to speak to it in terms of John has that point, but it's right now, it's kind of buried in his report, but.
Right, and actually, we're gonna get to that
All
later in the
All right.
agenda, right?
Okay,
So.
all right, so we'll come back to that, but I strongly encourage everyone to watch that video on the RCTV site, because I saw it as a real opening up of the conversation to actually address the needs of the seniors as the top priority, not the only priority. An intergenerational center would be wonderful, but priority one is what the seniors need, and then if we can build upon that in a way that supports more intergenerational, great. But this was a real turn in the conversation of what I've observed in those meetings, and I think that John Sasso's report will help drive that. So hunt down the video. Let us know if you need the link. We can share it. I don't know anything else to report from the recalc liaison. Nancy, you were there too. No, you weren't there. You watched it later. I was the only one there. I guess.
No, Jean, you were there, right? You went to the recalc meeting
I was on Zoom.
on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jean was
All
there.
right.
I was there.
What, does that fit with your observations?
It definitely does.
Okay.
I feel that we have moved up
Yeah.
in the conversation, and that was brought to everyone's attention that that should be on the list as a priority and moving rapidly.
Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? How
Absolutely.
is that different from new business draft recount summary report?
That's what the point Nancy was
Okay,
making. I'm
okay.
I'm subbing in for John Parsons because he was.
Okay.
But those are the updates. All right, select board liaison updates. Neither of our select board members could be here tonight either, so.
It's gonna be a shorter meeting than we thought.
I know, I
I
know.
love how you put the time in. We're already at 7 o'clock.
It's wonderful. I know Mark had mentioned that I think he's teaching on Monday nights now, so I don't think we're going to see Mark very often. Karen, I was hoping she might come, but maybe next time. So we don't have a select board liaison update. So on to ongoing business, elder services report.
Yes, we've had a busy couple months since we last met. We restarted our Wellness Wednesday series January 11th, and our numbers have really increased. We're getting into the 60s for each event.
Wow.
Still hosted at the library, but it's going really well. The first one was like 40, but then ever since it's been in the 60s. So we're really happy with that. December 12th, we started some multi-generational programming with recreation. So we're looking to do some stuff at least probably like once a month. We did gingerbread houses in December. It was a good event. There was a good turnout. I'm hoping to get more seniors in. This month we have we're going to do a movie together during February vacation week. Show the movie Up. So we thought that would be kind of a fun afternoon. It also gives the kids somewhere to kind of go to. So we thought it'd be well. So it's going to be on an early afternoon on vacation week. So we started looking at some multi-generational programming, which I think is good. California Caro, we had a birthday lunch. Our men's group is taking off, which is good. We just started this in November. The November, December was kind of slow, but we had 5 in January. And we still were missing one, so we're actually growing pretty rapidly with the men's group. So we're getting a lot of interest, which is good. We hosted the 2 EHS COA coffee hours, which were really well. Both. We did one in the morning, which turned out really good, and we did one in the later afternoon, and I heard we had a good turnout for that
We
too.
did.
So were you? Yeah, oh, yeah. So that.
And we have our very own poker dealer.
Oh yeah, we have our
Rose Marie.
Rose Marie, our new poker dealer. But they were both really good events. We're excited for that. In January, we decided to do 2 movies. We did the Downton Abbey movie 1 and movie 2. And we kind of like the idea of doing 2 movies a month. So we're gonna try to stick with doing 2 movies a month. And so that was good. And we opened the billiards room downstairs in January. So we're excited for that. So we have a small group of men that come in and play, but a couple of them are new I haven't seen before, but you know what? It's open and they're playing, so I'll take it.
Great.
I'm sure there's other things, but that's all I can.
No women playing billiards yet?
No, not yet. You want to come? Anyone's allowed. You're all invited. I'll play with you. So no, it's really good. So, and our numbers overall are really increasing, which is really good. And we started offering a couple of our exercise classes for free. So
Oh, good.
we're kind of, at least we have chair yoga, strength and balance, and line dancing. We're offering for free starting here in February. So
Fabulous.
we're excited to be able to do that. So, so that's my report.
Okay.
Karen?
Yes. So, cultural and, where are the movies recorded? Which category are they? Are they under cultural and social events? I'm
Yes.
just curious.
Yeah, believe, yes, if I remember correctly, under cultural and social events, unless it's a multi-generational movie, it's under a multi-generational.
Okay, and then what, November was a huge spike in cultural and social events. What?
We have the Thanksgiving
Okay.
meal up in North Reading Country Club.
Okay, that's, yeah.
So that spiked it. So, but November was a good month. December is typically a little bit of a drop month because I call it a drop month. I don't know if that's an official term, but I'm coining it. December, because of the holidays, I always consider a bit of a drop month because you never know with the weather and with holidays. But we actually did pretty good with December. But then we got right back up with January. So our numbers, I'm not surprised. February, I also a lot of times consider a drop month as well. December because of the holidays, February because of weather. So those are the 2 months usually throughout the year that I've experienced throughout my career that numbers can dip. Right now, I don't think our numbers are going to dip in February, which is good. But I'm glad we got above pre-pandemic numbers in November. We were pretty much even for December. It was interesting. We got unduplicated number was higher in December than the previous March December, but our unduplicated was just off by like 30 people. So I'm excited that the unduplicated, we're continuing to reach more people. So I look closely at both numbers, but I'm happy we stayed even in December.
Now, does that include any of the other seniors that we have guests coming in? Have you ever done a ratio? In other words, going back and forth to various senior centers, some people do that.
Yes, that's a little bit hard to track because I don't know everyone that, a lot of seniors do bounce around. I know like a lot of our seniors, they'll play bridge with us on Fridays, but they also play bridge in Winchester on, I don't know, Mondays. I do know we have some outsiders but I don't know. It's hard to track, like, we don't ask, be like, are you coming just for the day, or, we don't.
That would
yeah.
be interesting to see, like, event they're interested in.
Yeah,
And another senior center might not be having.
yeah. There's a small group. It's not a very big number. But it seems like every activity has a portion that, they come from somewhere else. Cause I know, like, from bingo, we have a lady that comes from Medford. There's a lady that comes from bingo and cribbage and Marjan. She comes from Everett. So that we do get, but I'm not gonna say no. So, but that's a good question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I've noticed we don't have RCTV tonight. Do they usually come by invitation, or do they just,
I don't know.
all right,
I see them in the Zoom.
Oh, do you see them in the Zoom?
oh, okay.
Okay.
Right. All right, then they're here. We usually see a square that says RCTV, but if they're in the Zoom, that's great. Hello, RCTV.
It could also be me and my technology skills
All
with
right.
the Zoom in this new room, so.
All right, you're doing great. Elder Services requests for funding. I know you and I were talking about this, but.
Yeah, back in, I think December, I had requested 3 months, December, January, and February. I just looked at it before the meeting, and I'm gonna just keep it I wanna just keep it the same. I think I requested 1,200 for December, 1,000 for January, and 1,000 for February, and I think it's good just to leave it where it's at.
Okay,
So I'm not gonna ask for anything else right now, because I should cover everything we need.
all right. Thank you. Financial report. You gave us the.
Oh, yeah. Today, we gave everyone a look at the interest.
Is that as of end of? calendar
It's
year?
2022. I was told we'll get an updated one in the spring here. Diane will give us an updated one here in the spring. So probably in a couple months, we'll have an updated one, but at least this gives us a good idea.
So this is end of
Um,
2022?
I want to say yes, but don't
Okay.
hold me to that.
Okay, put it in quotes.
Yeah.
Meeting, don't.
As of, no, it's actually as of, in the amounts as of May.
Oh, May,
So it's probably the end of
fiscal year.
fiscal
22.
year. But it's the latest one we had, but we'll have an updated one in the spring. I was told today.
Great.
Will it include the other trusts too? This is just the Burbank.
Right.
This one right now is just for Burbank.
Yeah, it would
We
be
can
great
get a-
if we could do the other. ones.
We're pulling things, we're trying to get everything pulled together. It's
Yep.
just taking us some time.
Yeah.
So I'm actually glad to see this too, because even I was interested in the interest. And this actually gives us a really good idea, because we can only pull from the interest for the year. And so this gives us a really good idea of what we can pull and where we should kind of,
It can be gotten out of these reports, but it's
Good.
not easy.
Godspeed on that one. It's,
It can be. done,
yes,
but
it
it's
can be
not easy.
found.
Like, here's interest.
I love you all. And if you really want that, please come and visit, and we'll set aside a couple weeks for that, and I'll try to decipher it. But that's what we have.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's financial report. We're up to 7:20, soaring here. New business, update from the work group on the new senior center, community center communication plan.
Oh, well, we have display boards up at the library. We have one at the senior center, and we have one at Tannerville. So all three places, if anybody can think of any other place we should have one, we can put them together. Karen Fotino did the display board that's at the library. She did a fabulous job, and she volunteered to do another one. So if anybody can think of where else we should put one, we will do that. We, yeah,
Peter Sanborn. I have
okay,
70 plus seniors
okay, good.
if you're looking for a place.
And if anyone has a contact over at Reading Woods, they have a little function center. And the 5 of the buildings over there are age restricted to age 55 plus, so they're wall-to-wall seniors in all those buildings. But we need someone who knows someone, I think, on their board who would have access to Stay Sure.
I can check that out. The same management company at Peter Sanborn takes care of Reading Woods. I'll reach out
Great.
to them.
Fabulous, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Excuse me, the other is Johnson Way.
Johnson
Johnson.
Woods. That's not age.
Well, they do have, there was someone at Wellness Wednesday that sat next to us and she just moved in.
Well, anybody can, it's just.
I
Reading
think
Woods
there
gets
is a condos or apartments that were recently built about a year or 2 ago
That are
in the
age,
back.
that are age.
That's,
focused.
I'll check
Great.
into that.
That's
Let
good.
you know.
All right, that'd be great.
Okay.
Reach out to them too.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great if there were other places we could set this up. One of the comments at the forum that was held last week on the new senior center was someone said, you know, they're not into multimedia and email and all that stuff. So if we can think of places where we could put a display that people could peruse, you know, just send me an email.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, we haven't really done,
Well,
we
it's a
did the
video.
coffees
Well, it's a video, isn't it?
and the video. Oh,
The video,
yes,
the
and the
video.
video. How could we forget the video? So the group has met a number of times and we put together a outline. It's not really an outline. It's actually a very kind of detailed description now of what we would want to say. And from that, we're culling it down. So when Chris becomes the tour host, you know, he's not having to read from a script. And but that was one of the things that RCTV really suggested, that we put a script together so that just to make sure we didn't forget anything that we really wanted to say.
They also recommended it's gonna be a kind of a shorter video, something probably no longer than 8 minutes. RCTV recommended that, you know, anything longer, you tend to lose people's attention. So we're trying to make high quality in a shorter period of time to catch everyone's attention.
If people are interested, I could send out the draft as it stands now. And as I said, it's not culled out, but if people want to take a look at it and see if there's anything that people feel is missing and think should be added, are people interested in seeing it? Okay.
Nancy, I still have to take a stab at it. I apologize.
And no worries at all.
I'm not ignoring you.
I know.
And you're doing fantastic work.
No worries.
Nancy's been putting together the compilation of all the suggestions. And she's been doing it like a turnaround within
Minutes.
less than 24 hours.
I can't
It's
keep up with her.
amazing.
I can't. I thought I could.
I drive home and the email's already there with here's the summary. I was like, how did she do that?
She's organized.
Yeah.
My
So
pleasure.
I'll send it out
Okay,
to
great.
everybody with the edits to date.
Thank you for all your work, everybody.
And it's something we talked about at those meetings is the video will be a really important tool in communicating to town meeting members in particular, but also the community as a whole. RCTV will run it in between things all the time. but it's a method of communicating to town meeting members, so if and when this does get to their vote, they will understand what the shortcomings are in the current center, and that's the focus of this one, is why are people saying we need a new senior center? It's not talking about our options, it's not talking about our priorities, it's just, let's get to the nuts and bolts, basics, of what's the core problem that started this whole dialogue, so.
Another thing that was mentioned, which I think is really neat, was, I think it was Jean Delios who mentioned we should contact the Reading Cooperative Bank.
Yes.
Because we could actually do like an opening, we could have a grand opening and invite town meeting members and anybody else who wants to come see the movie. We could have some food and.
We can have a red carpet that Chris can walk down since he's our star.
Not sure about this anymore.
Not mandatory, not mandatory. So we're working hard at getting the word out.
And the coffee hours have been great. I would say, you know, they hover between 8 to 10 people. And of those people, I would say at least 4 to 5 are new. What would you say, Rosemary? Because you're right there along with me.
Yes, I enjoy the coffee hours, and if people don't particularly come for the coffee hours, we invite them in anyway if they're showing up for something different. And people have joined us that way. And we did have a couple of couples join us, and they enjoyed when we played poker. So they had a good time and they stayed around. Could I rewind for a minute here? Talking
Sure,
about
I
the-
hadn't noticed your hand up there, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Regarding the information bulletin and the information sheets, I'm wondering if you could put just the sheets at Market Basket. When you go in and out of Market Basket, there's a shelving there that our pleasantries go on. But the information sheet, I'm sure, could go there too. The information sheet does have a lot of information, and the handouts like that are good for people to be able to take home. Obviously, they can't take big board home, but they would be able to take any information sheet home that you have.
Could the information sheet also be put inside pleasantries at Market Basket?
Yeah, we could probably do a separate insert. I probably might be tricky to do it for all of them, but
No, just the ones.
but just for Market Basket, we could probably print and put those in with the calendar.
It would be a value because we could do both, but
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
might just take pleasantries.
What about a mailing with the Chronicle, an insert with the Chronicle? Is that pricey? If somebody would, they would put the sheet in the Chronicles that are going to be mailed out, it would be at the Chronicle location that they would do it. Does that cost a lot of money?
I don't know, but I could also add it to my email blast.
Yeah.
You know.
I
it's-
think we'd have to we do kind of have to rework that sheet now because it's already dated. So.
But if we get an updated sheet,
Yeah.
we could do a
Yeah.
couple things,
Yeah.
maybe time it to email blast, put it in the Market Basket. Maybe a couple other things
Yeah.
could work.
The
So
only thing-
another thought I have, the video you're talking about, is it a video of someone touring Pleasant Street Center and pointing out the problems?
Chris is our star actor.
So the way I think we've organized it, and correct me if I'm wrong. I am going to do a intro, in-person intro, which will be, not very long, but then it'll be more of a video just showing the parts of the center while I narrate. So they're not focused on me. This way that they can focus on the center and just hear me rather than watch me and not focus on the center.
So
So
it's a walkthrough of our Pleasant Street Center while you're narrating.
Correct, with a brief in-person intro at the beginning.
So some of our classes are very full, some of them are spilling over into other rooms. So
Yep.
part of the video should have those
Yep.
groups showing how tight we are.
We are going to, we have to kind of strategically do it a little bit. But we are picking some groups that we can take some photos or videos of to show that. So we're doing precisely that. Maybe not with all the groups, but with as many as we can within the time frame of the video.
So in order to do that, taking pictures of groups, would you have to ask them ahead of time permission to be in the video?
It depends, yes and no. If we strategically do it, there's a couple groups we can film from the back. That way it doesn't technically show anyone, it just shows, the full capacity without actually showing faces. And then there may be some groups that we have to get permission from. So we are covering that detail.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosemary.
Okay, good job. It's exciting. Oh, yes.
Quick, on the Pleasant Street newsletter, the insert, can that be a bright color or something? I will supply the paper.
Oh, the info sheet.
Yes.
For the info, yes, yes, for the info sheet that we insert, we can print on. Tell me what you want to do, and if we have the paper, I'm sure we can print it. It's a little bit trickier if we have to go through the printer. But yes, if it's for our info sheet,
Well, if you just have a copy,
yeah, and then we can copy.
I would take it to
Yeah.
one of the locals and just have them run 400 or 500.
We can
Okay.
easily do that if it's just on
You
our.
choose it, you know.
Someone tell me, someone has to tell me, don't let me pick out the color, huh? The older I get, the worse I'm at it.
Well, the blue background with the lettering for black doesn't pop.
Yeah, blue is not good.
No,
Blue's if you ever create a sign, don't make it in blue.
no.
You can't read it, especially at night. Horrible. All right, thank you.
Any more questions about our communication strategy? Fabulous work, everybody who's working on it. It's really exciting. That brings us up to the UMass study final report. It's big, it's detailed. A lot of it's a little tedious to read, I grant you. Has everyone had a chance to read it?
The executive summary was very helpful.
Well, don't get too excited about some of this, though. There's a letter that, actually, there've been 2 letters that I've sent out because I found there are places when they go to talk about what the data means that they're misquoting what the question really was, and incorrect conclusions are being drawn from it. I wrote one letter and they changed everything I asked for. And then I started hearing what people were saying and went back and looked and wrote another letter. For example, Mark had up at the forum the other night, he had a slide that showed the priorities of the things that people wanted. Well, they were ranked, it showed their rank, that was it. Well, we never asked them to rank it. And what they did was they said, well, which ones got mentioned by the most people? That's top rank. And it's like, well, that's one person's interpretation of top rank, but we aren't running a contest of competing interests. We need to know what % of the population needs what. And for example, the cafe was, I think, rank 5 on most of the age groups, but that was because smaller numbers said they needed it. But for all we know, those people really need the cafe. I mean, it could be a major source. We don't know, is my point. So to say, oh, that was 5th ranking compared to 1st rank starts becoming really misleading. And so I wrote to them and I said, you know, what you can say is exactly what the question asked. Rank your top 5 or 7, depending, there are 3 questions that went this way. And tell us what your top 5 or 7 are. So what a correct statement is that all those things that got listed are among their top priorities. The word rank shouldn't even be in there because it wasn't used. And it was discussed that they might word it that way and they chose not to. So they should not be, they need to be more careful in how they're describing it because stuff kind of, it's like dominoes falling, you know, they jump to using the word rank. Someone reads that, or they just look at the table and they say, oh, rank. And then they make the next conclusion of, well, less important because not top rank. And it goes on. So I've written a letter saying, putting the percentages is fine, putting what I just said, just reiterating, compared to the 12 things you didn't pick, these were higher priority, is perfectly accurate and helpful. But there are things like that. So read the report really critically. Look at the questions that are at the back, and they're there as they were in the survey, and you'll see it's not always worded the way that they're saying. There's also another graph in there where they asked the likelihood that you would use a senior center or a community center with a designated senior space. Fine, good question. But then they cross-tabulated it with what your preference was for a senior center or a community center with designated space, and to look, and they truncated the descriptions of the questions. So if you just looked at it, it looks like those who said senior center, 80% or whatever the number is, would use it. And then if you look at the community center, it looks like, wow, 75% or 90, whatever the number is, would use it. But we don't know that because that's not how the question was worded. And I got a footnote out of it. They did go that far and they adjusted some of the language. But I just really encourage you not to take the executive summary at face value. Really question it. I'm not saying they did bad work, but there are things that get written somewhat casually, just thinking, oh, well, that everyone knows what I mean, but people read very different meanings into things, and it's really important to be really precise about what do we really know from this data. The one thing that seems to be the most notable number in terms of what everyone is hanging on is that, trying to find it, it was on page 1, but still. 49% of survey respondents, that's another good thing. This is of survey respondents. This isn't of the community.
Right.
I've been hearing people saying 49% of the community want this. No, 49% of 1,472, is that the number of people want this? Doesn't mean the rest of the community might not also. And that was a really good return rate for direct mail, but it statistically doesn't mean that these people are representative of the whole community. So we just need to be really precise in what we've learned. And if we do that, there's a lot that we've learned with this. So I'm not saying don't focus on the study, just be really careful. But the 49% of survey respondents preferred an all ages community center, including designated space and programming for residents age 60 plus, is really striking a chord and motivating a lot of what's being discussed in Recalc, and to the extent that they allow us to sit in on the select board as well. And I think what's going to be really important is to monitor what we're hearing and to make sure it's accurate to the study, and find places where maybe we need to dig deeper with more studies. If we're hearing things that we're concerned about, we should all be getting in touch with our town meeting members and saying, you know, this is going at a train speed forward and it's being not necessarily understood as well as it needs to, or whatever is on your mind. We need to start being very vocal and encourage your friends to be vocal. Any thoughts? Yes.
Sorry, I'm not changing the subject, but I just noticed we have a couple other. Karen Herrick is here. I don't know why you're not on the main screen, but I see you on my laptop. Karen, can you hear us?
I can. Thank you. Nope, I've been following along. I was only able to join in at about 6:45. Didn't want to disturb you.
Oh, great. That means that perhaps you could do an update for us on the select board.
Okay, well,
Mark usually does it and he.
okay.
I
Well,
understand.
so all of the select board members, I was pleased to say, attended the forum the other night and it really was amazing, how excited people are getting and, trying to think what else. So I have heard some talk, I don't want to get anyone in trouble, that, chart of the options should include Simon's Way. I agree that at this point it probably should. It did not make it into the forum the other night, but probably it should be. But we are, as was noted in the forum, we do have a deadline. We have 2 respondents to the RFPs for a potential senior center, community center. So we do have a deadline of some sort. Which luckily it's not a week. I believe it's 90 days in total. I'm not sure of the exact final date, but so just keeping that in mind, that would be 2 of the items on that spreadsheet. That would be potential sites for this exciting senior center. And, what we have been told as well is that Recalc made a vote that this should be an intergenerational community center / senior center. So Marilyn, to your point about defining things and being careful, I personally think that's probably another area we might want to, kind of define that. I'm not expecting toddler time at this new community center. I
Good
think
point.
unless you have any questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
I noticed that the select board is going into executive session. And I understand that you can't share the details that are being talked about.
Mhm.
But I would like to be reassured that the select board, not only if it's considering, I'm going to pick on Walgreens for a minute.
Okay.
Walgreens, that part of the requirements for Walgreens is that a full second floor is added to Walgreens. Otherwise, the space does not make sense. And also that parking lot behind the building is also going to be designated for a senior center during the day. And I would just like to be reassured that all the select board members are informed of that particular concern, and it really should be a requirement.
Okay. So what I do know is that the select board is the road commissioner, so we have full control over that municipal lot. Every single spot back there, aside from the ones just strictly added to the building, are within the control of the community. And okay, that's an excellent point. Now, as to a full second floor on that building, I think, if I'm understanding the process, is that the select board is not really defining what the senior center needs to look like, but that Recalc, working with the Council on Aging, would be defining that. So I can certainly bring that feedback, but I'm not sure that we're making that decision.
Yeah, Karen, you need to go back and check that, because I don't think that's right. We aren't making that decision. And it's really important that if the select board decides to purchase one of these buildings, that there is sufficient space, because you could take Walgreens as is, and it's only 9,800 square feet. And when you add in new administrative space and new storage space, you're not really adding much more program space. So it's very, very important that the select board supports a full second floor on that building, and that there be sufficient space. It's a real concern of mine, real concern.
I hear that. The numbers I've been hearing for this space are in the 14,000, 15,000 space
No,
square
that-
foot. So I'm not sure where the 9,800 is coming from.
Then it's right on the plans, the original plans for Walgreens. That's all there is there. I noticed on Fidel's slides,
Uh-huh.
he had 20,000 square feet, but that is incorrect. There is not 20,000 square.
Yeah, and that's higher than the number that's been bounced around. Okay, well, we can certainly,
So
are you talking
all have
about-
to Really make sure that you're crunching those numbers. That's, it's a real concern. Otherwise, what the select board's gonna find is it supports a new building, but the building's not gonna be big enough. So you need to make sure, or the liaisons to the Council on Aging need to make sure that there is sufficient space. 20,000 square feet would be great. If you could get 20,000 square feet out of Walgreens, for example, that would be fabulous. But that's not what's there if the building is just bought.
Yeah, I would agree. I've been hearing 14,000, 15,000. I
No,
remember the
no,
exact
that's
number. I've
wrong.
never heard 9,800. So I honestly, that sounds like the first floor to me. But
No,
that we can easily go and check that.
Yeah, I will, I'll send you a copy of the original specs from the Walgreen floor plans.
And are these coming from the architect or are these coming from something
Yes,
like up
yes.
at town hall? Okay,
yes.
good. I appreciate that.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
Rosemary.
yeah, Rosemary, your hand's up.
I'm really not knowledgeable about a request for proposal. You're talking about 90 days. At the end of 90 days, what information do we have to give them? Is there a price tag associated with each of the requests for proposals? And would we be putting out the amount of money we'd be willing to pay for the building at that point? And then the other thing, you're talking about putting on a second floor. So are you talking about major?
I was talking about it, Rosemary. It was me, Nancy.
Okay, so not in plans or not with the select board talking about a second floor?
Excuse me, it was brought up at last
At the
week's,
forum.
at the forum, that there's a possibility to have designs submitted for a second floor.
Right. But at the forum, nobody committed to it. And it really needs to be committed to. Otherwise, that space is not big enough.
Okay, when you go in there, you do go up a flight of stairs to a second floor.
No, you go to a mezzanine.
It's a partial second floor.
When I went up there, there was about 5 offices on the left and then a huge warehouse on the right. A huge open cabin. of
But
an
it wasn't
area.
the whole second floor.
It doesn't cover the whole first floor, Rosemary. It covers part of it.
Yes.
Okay, are we sure of that?
Yes.
So, you know, anything with enough money, honestly, anything is done. And I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for, in my opinion, to ask for, how much would it cost to make it a full second floor? And I apologize, I was at the zoning board of appeals for the first half of the forum the other night, so I missed this particular point. But, you know, certainly we can spend the money to talk about what it might cost to do such a thing. And again, as a community, we have to all come together and sell it to the rest of the community. Just to Rosemary's question, so tomorrow night in an executive session, we would enter an executive session only for a couple of reasons. We would enter this executive session if there were some aspects of the RFP responses that came back that would, if fully public at this time would be detrimental to the town. So there might be some, I'm going to assume there's some additional information that will be communicated to the full select board. The RFPs themselves that were turned in, they are public and they were published in a select board packet. So you can see what Rite Aid and Walgreens proposed. And so the 90-day, let's say it is 90 days. I think it's 90 days. That means that proposal to us, if they want to sell it to us for $1 or whatever the amount is, it means that the town, as long as we respond within those 90 days, it's legally binding, if that's the right word. What did happen in the fall with the first RFP response was that we had not come to a mutually agreeable number with the Walgreens folks. And so they went ahead with their other transaction. So it was outside the RFP timeframe. But so that is the good thing. It gives us a little time to talk some more about these two options.
Thank you, Karen. Thank
welcome.
you. Going back to the report, another finding that I think it's really important, and it was not initially called out in the report. Originally, the report, after talking about the 49%, simply noted that there was a lot of variation by age category with no elucidation on that. Well, the reality is, in almost a direct line upward, as you go to age categories, because everything is presented by 5 or 10 or 15, whatever year age increments in that report, the percent who prefer a senior center exclusively for age 60 plus goes up and up and up as people get older, which makes a lot of sense. It also makes sense that people at the younger end of it, that details were not explained in the survey. Someone who's young knows that they're not allowed to use the senior center. Well, they probably wouldn't vote for it because they can't use it. There's so many undercurrents that could be in this data. And so again, don't assume anything is found by the data except literally what it says. And I think it's really important to bear in mind, the older people get, the more a seniors only center is what they're stating is their preference. So,
But what's good, Marilyn, is
Yeah.
it wasn't a huge percentage for over 80. 57% of respondents, 80 or older, selected senior center residents age 60 plus as their preference. That's not a huge, I would have expected it to have been even higher. So
Right.
they are thinking multi-generational as well.
there are ones who are open to it, absolutely, all the way through.
But again, of these respondents.
Right. But of these respondents, there are ones who are clearly open to the community center, no matter how old they get. But
Yeah.
remember, we're getting all excited because 49% said all ages, but now we're saying, well, 57 is a big number. It's, we need to really, we shouldn't read much into it, is the message, except literally this many said that.
Yeah.
And we just need to be cautious on all of this. Also, the numbers start getting really small. Going back to that ranking example, I worked back from the percentages and found out how many people were in the survey in each category and did all the math. And some of them, it was like a total of 20 people difference between those who had something as a first choice versus a fifth. Well, I would not want the town to be making major policy decisions on the vote of 20 survey respondents. So we just need to really take it for what it is and don't extrapolate very far. We need more studies, more thinking, more dialogue to get there. That's my rant for the night on numbers.
So Marilyn.
Yes.
So what do you? So basically what I'm hearing you say is that we should all read it.
Yes.
And if we think that some of these numbers are skewed, can people get that information to you?
Sure.
And
I'll write another letter.
Yeah.
Sure. If you
Yeah.
find something, what's triggering me at this point is I'm listening to the conversations and people are saying, this is what we found out. And I go back to this and I read it and I'm like, well, not quite. And so that's what's causing me to dig down into these things. It's where people are innocently enough misinterpreting. I mean, you read something lightly and think, oh, and it means something in your head, but it might mean something different in Nancy's head and Chris's head. We don't know. So you just need to be really precise. And by all means, if you find something that you don't understand or you question or you challenge the way they've written their conclusion, let me know and I will write another letter. UMass must love me. Anyway, so that's that. The other piece is that, and there was never a step in this process where, at least not the Council on Aging, we were never asked, do we accept this report from UMass? So that's part of why this is happening. Ideally, I would have liked to have had a review period and a formal, do you accept it or what are your challenges to it? And I don't know if anybody did that, but it would have been a good process. Lesson learned for next time we do a survey of this sort. All right. Any questions about the report? Okay. The draft recalc summary report. Recalc is writing a summary report that is not of just the UMass data, but it's of the whole recalc process. And Nancy, you've been talking most with John Sasso. Do you want to summarize a little bit where that stands, or I can do it if you don't.
Well, you can jump in.
All right.
My conversation with John Sasso was that there were concerns, and it kind of goes back to what Marilyn said about the numbers. And that they have to be very careful what numbers they choose to report on in this summary report, and then what conclusions they need to draw. The summary report, to me, needs a little bit more work, and Recalc seems to be open to that. John Sasso seems to be open to that. They did not take a vote to accept it at the last meeting, so that means they're open. If you read his report, the very end of the report, and it's kind of hidden. My recommendations would be that this really needs to be moved up to the front of the report. But where it says next steps, it's the tail end of the report, and it seems to be saying that Recalc is in support, that the priority support is to provide the updates and the services that are required for the 60 and over population. That's what it seems to be saying, but it's kind of hidden away, and it's somewhat muddled. So like Marilyn said, she and I spent a whole Sunday afternoon going over the report, and with making some edits. We'd be very interested in, as you read the report, to get a sense of how you read it and what kinds of edits you would like to see in it. Thank you.
See, I looked at the bottom of page 6, those bottom 2 paragraphs. I have to believe that based on this feedback, discussion at community forums, and the way other communities have addressed senior needs, the desire for intergenerational community center is real. However, it should not take precedence over first community program service and facility meeting. And then the final sentence says, in the event the community does decide to move forward, at a minimum, there should be separate space programs and services for seniors. That's what I really focused. I mean, I heard
So did
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that he is absolutely making that point. And I think anyone that has spoken with him also knows that that is a priority for his perspective as well. So
We got a lot of discussion at the last recalc meeting towards the end. He spoke up. I mean, he was summarizing his report and made just that point. And sort of like people suddenly were saying, well, you know, I've supported this because that's our charge, but that's my personal opinion too. It's sort of like, quite a few people, it seems, have, in the quest to be supportive of let's explore this opportunity, set aside what their gut is telling them and what they personally might like, and they started to, I think through the consequences of separating those two things. I found it a very encouraging meeting because they were starting to talk about it finally. We actually talked about elderly people at that meeting. There's been very little real discussion of elderly people through all of this. And I was talking with Fidel and I said, it's as though if you were building a daycare center and you never heard the word children come up in the entire time. It's kind of been that way, but we really need to get inside the needs of real elderly people, and they're different. We're not one big lump that all have the same needs by any stretch of the imagination.
Elderly.
I know. I advocate the 60+ term. That's why it's on the pleasantries as we went to that. But that's the level that we need understanding about to make a good decision about how to support the 60+ population going forward. And I found last week's meeting to be the first time that I'd heard it. It doesn't mean it didn't happen when I wasn't there, but it's the first time I've heard it come up in a systematic way. And I was really heartened by it, frankly.
And I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I've also, over the past couple weeks in numerous meetings and talks, I do make it a point on my side to make sure I advocate for dedicated space for our older adults. I'm a big fan of it being a multi-generational center, but I do try to emphasize every conversation that I have is we need dedicated space for our older adults.
Well, one of the other words that concerns me actually in the UMass report, and I've heard it in other discussion, is they're talking about a intergenerational community center with core senior service center. And core in my mind means like the core of the apple and the pulp's gone away. And I'm concerned, the use of, it's just like the UMass study, the casual use of a word like that can suddenly have everybody taking it as fact and necessity. And it isn't. It's a decision that might get made or not to do that. But I would say that we're a long way from having any evidence that we should be honing down to a core. Doesn't mean we might not, but the word upsets me that it's getting into the language very casually. Yes, ma'am.
Why doesn't it say a senior center with possibility of community space? I don't understand why the senior center is at the end of that sentence.
I think because it came from Recalc and they got a charge to investigate multi-generational. Honestly, it's only just recently hit me that equal attention to a senior center was not in the vision of what that charge was about. And that's why that's happening. And now hopefully people will start to question that before they make snap judgments.
And I also think that we need to think about the term intergenerational. And Chris, I know you're putting some programs together and I think that's a great idea. But I do also know that not all seniors necessarily are looking for an intergenerational experience when they go to the senior center.
I think
So I think that's another term that we need to use with more caution than it's currently being used.
I think you're right on that, Nancy. I think I'm a big fan of multi-generational stuff, and I think it's very important. It's very valuable. But at the same time, there is, and I think there always will be, a group of older adults that, if they are looking for a place of their own, and in some cases, a place of respite away from, maybe we don't know the situation. We have a lot of situations out there. And, I think it's important to make sure that they have their own space away from children. Maybe not all the time, but, I think that's a good valid point.
Is there a difference between multi-generational and intergenerational? Is there?
No one
Are
knows.
those interchangeable?
They're not defined, fuzzy points.
Because you used intergenerational and you used multi-generational.
Oh.
I
I don't know.
probably,
I think they're all kind of blending together. I think in my,
Because we want to make
Um,
sure that, you know, we're
I
talking
should-
about the importance of.
People-
I should probably verify that in my head, community center, multi-generational center.
I think so too. I was just
Yeah.
wondering what
Yeah.
multi-generational
oh,
means.
I probably misspoke. I probably,
And
you know, I
again, the-
should have said multi.
Well, and again, the data didn't use either of those for the survey. The survey asked about an all ages community center. And a lot of people, when they say community center, oh, they know a town that it's got a swimming pool and a track and all this other stuff. Wasn't defined, wasn't even remotely defined. And people have very different mental images of what those words meant. I've heard Mark talk about I can't remember which one it was, as opposed to a community center, one of the other two being a slightly different focus in his mind, and I won't attempt to quote it, it was a while ago, but there was a difference. And he thought that that was important to be thinking about what our needs might be. It's something that needs to be understood clearly.
So next steps.
Next steps. Hopefully we will get to work with John Sasso more on this report.
Is there any interest to take, to use John's, I hate to form another work group, but let me throw it out. A few people that might be interested in getting together to look at John's report and just make sure it reflects the conversation that we've had here tonight. It includes the conversation we've had here tonight.
So I have a question. This is dated January 28th, which is before, I guess you submitted some
No,
feedback to him.
No, he probably drafted this before
He did.
I sent the latest
So-
feedback, but he's aware of the feedback. I
So he
CC'd
has
him.
not updated this, and it also
No.
has not been updated since Wednesday's meeting.
Right.
So he may be updating it
He might.
anyway.
He might be.
Yeah.
So I'll give him a call and see what he's doing. For me personally, I think it's just important that when we read the recalc summary report, that the Council on Aging members can, I don't know, for lack of a better word, buy in to what the summary is, so that, because this is gonna go to town meeting, it's gonna go to the select board, it's gonna go to all of the committees that are out there, it's going to go to the voters ultimately. So personally, I think we have a vested interest in how this report reads, and we have been an integral part of the recalc group all along. I mean, we're not members, but we have given our comments. So that's the last thing I'm gonna say about that, but we'll see what John has done.
Yes, Rosemary.
I think I forgot what I was gonna ask you, but I think we should all keep in mind that we're not gonna make everybody happy. So we have to just go forward and do the best we can for the majority. And Nancy, in the summer, I think it was you and Nancy Twaddis, was it the two of you who put together a letter outlining a lot of the needs and thoughts that had to be put into this building for seniors? So that should answer a lot of questions. And then the other thing, as far as the community center, I don't think we're gonna be tripping over other age groups, because during the day, a lot of the older generations, we have programs, but then come 3:30, 4 o'clock, we're gone. And then other groups might come in at that point after school. You might have a scheduling problem in the summertime, but whoever handles the calendar can take care of that.
Rosemary, to go to my pet peeve on that one, part of why the seniors aren't there is that's when senior programming
Is
starts. There's not as much senior programming after 3 o'clock. And there are plenty of people like myself who are working full-time who would be at a program at 6:30 at night, just like coming to this. That's when we're available and we're interested in it. That interest was reflected in the study.
We,
Pardon me?
we are looking at expanding, so everyone knows, into the evening a little bit. I was really curious. I was waiting a lot for the last public forum last Tuesday, to kind of see what the attendance would be, just to kind of give me a idea. And I was quite impressed with, we had a pretty good turnout. I think we had in total with everybody about 55 folks.
Yeah.
And a lot of those folks were older adults. So that was an encouraging sign that it means I need to explore some evening programming, which has been on my list for a while, but that really gave me a good indication.
And in the numbers, 33% of the age 60 to 69 group are still working full-time. Doesn't mean we wouldn't like to have social activities with people in our own age group, but it's got to be in the evening. You know, if we work a 9-to-5 job. So the model that, and it scares me frankly, because I hear talk about, oh, the seniors go home and the kids and everyone can come. In first place, that's not going to make it intergenerational because they won't be interacting. So that does away with that goal of the whole multi-generational concept. But again, going back to there are issues that we're not addressing yet for seniors, and evening availability of programming and services is one that's extremely limited right now. And I know Chris is working hard on it, but there's an assumption by many that we've gone home by then, and some have, no question, but others haven't, and they're just as entitled to have a senior center.
Excuse me, Chris, have we thought about possibly opening for Saturday morning for exercise class or?
Everything's on the table, I think. It all comes down to, I mean, there's a lot of factors that comes down to is staffing, and the hard part with the weekends is, it's not just our staff, but it has to be cleaning and facility. So, probably going into the weekend probably wouldn't be the first step. Probably going into maybe an evening in the week or something in the evening during the week would probably be a good first step to see. And we also have the crew to be able to clean and take care of the building and everything after that. And then maybe later on down the road, maybe something on a weekend. But I think the hard part, the challenging part is it takes staff. Anything can be done, but you have to have the staff, you have to have the resources and everything. So, but that's a good question. Thank you. Is Rosemary, is your hand still up?
Yes. How about we take a survey? We do have a lot of people who come to present Pleasant Street Center every day. Why don't we have a paper survey there asking them what type of classes they would like to see at night? And regarding any expanded hours, the bottom line is the amount of money we have for funding, plus the staff. So you have to keep that in mind. But first find out if anybody does want classes at night and what type of classes would they come for. Me, I'm home. As soon as it gets dark, I run home. So
I think the challenging part with that is I think that's a good idea. I think the challenging part is we're trying to hit, we know that people during the day come to the center and they utilize the center a lot. It's just trying to utilize the people who are, still working. and
But
trying
I
to get
would-
their feedback.
Yeah, I would never see the survey, Rosemary, because there are no hours of the day unless I use my vacation time to go to the senior center.
Yes, but
I
yes,
can
but the
tell
bulk of the bulk of the people, a lot of people are presently there. So see if anybody has any ideas of what they would like to do at night.
Okay, but it's the 33% that don't get to set foot in the building that we want to see what they need as
All right,
well.
so then what about putting that in the Chronicle?
That's
You
something
know,
like
a survey in the Chronicle, please respond,
that. Something like that would get at a broader group, yeah.
Maybe that's something that we want to think about at a later meeting, that we want to, remember we did that postcard that went out? Maybe we want to do that postcard again, but make it very specific and try to get that information.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Or the other thought is versus spending the funds to do a postcard, what about deciding when you might want an evening class or something and let that be publicly known
And see what
I think-
and
happens.
see what the
Mhm.
response is?
I think I think we treat it a lot like any other program is, I think it comes down to, we'll figure out the logistics, figure out a night. And a lot of times we just set a program and we push it out as hard as we can. The good thing right now is we're getting, we're doing actually really good outreach without actually having to do outreach, because right now the word of mouth is spreading. And that's a lot of times, some of the best outreach is, and it's free. So I think that, I see Karen has her hand up.
Gonna say that.
Bear with me, folks. I try to check my laptop and TV for hands up, so bear with us if we don't get to it.
And I can't see it on the screen unless I have your photo on the screen, and some people don't. So,
Thank you, Karen.
Well, thank you, Chris. So I have to tell you, I hear that we need expanded hours at our current senior center, which would, by its very nature, expand our capacity. And I still remember various programs put on by the Historical Commission. I think the last one I attended years ago was about like funeral jewelry. But that was not a young crowd, and it was an evening meeting, and it was a packed room. So I know it is going to be a build it and they will come. And then, which leads me to what I really wanted to ask about, whether you had already considered another agenda item for a future meeting about how to get going on a Friends of Pleasant Street Center. I don't know what you want to call it, but staffing is one issue, paying for the programming is another. And if you look at the library, they're able to run all of that program. Most of that programming is either through grants or through Friends of the Reading Library. So it isn't too early to start on this, and
Karen,
you guys would be the right people to take the lead, but let me know what you think.
Karen, thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
Carolyn,
yes,
the Friends of the Reading Library have money raisers that gives them money to that stuff at night, which we don't have.
but
I
the
don't know
challenge,
what you said, Joan, about who gets money.
The
The
Friends of the Reading Library have fundraisers. They have a lot of money to spend on things that they run at night. So they're not really doing volunteering. It's being paid for.
right.
And we don't have that kind of money.
Not
The
yet.
challenge for the council is not allowed to do fundraising. And
Yes,
the Friends has to be a distinct entity from the
Right.
council. It could
Right.
be someone here who's interested in doing it, could take the lead and start if they so desire, but we're
Right.
required to keep them separate. We can tell people, we'd really love to have a Friends, but it's finding someone with the experience and the interest and the time to do it
Right.
and providing them the support they need to get something like that going is what it will take. I don't
Right.
think anyone's opposed to it. We've talked about it quite a few times. in the past.
I've been enjoying making hints over the past handful of weeks, and that's all I can do is I feel like I can hint.
Yeah.
And hopefully at some point the hint will,
So can we
Catch fire.
officially put it as an agenda item for a future meeting?
But what would we do is my question. The council cannot.
But the
do it.
thing is, maybe, I understand that, but maybe if people see that it's an agenda item, that may, you know,
What would the agenda item be to recruit someone to do it?
this discussion about formation and what needs to happen. I mean, I think just putting it as an agenda item does, I mean, these are public documents.
We
So,
can put it on the agenda, but I just don't know that we've got the resources among
Right.
us to make much
we
happen.
can problem solve, because it's not an agenda item right now.
All
We're
right.
really not supposed to talk
You
about
need
it.
monetary support too.
We
No,
just
vote
can't
on
do
it.
it.
We
No, we just can't do it. And we can even vote on it. We just can't
No,
do it.
we can't.
We
vote
can't
on it
even
with-
vote on it.
No,
Okay, all right.
it's not, it's, no.
We can't, all right,
That would be an open meeting law violation.
okay.
I would like to know
I
if
can put
we,
it on the agenda
if
for
we
sure.
know of other centers, what type of programs they have at night. Do we have an idea of what's offered
I
at
do.
other centers at nighttime?
Jean does.
Thank you.
They have a lot of lectures
Yeah.
via Zoom. They have concerts via Zoom. I just attended one that came, the gentleman was Japanese and came via Zoom from Canada, giving a lecture and description of the mending of the pottery and what they use, and very educational and very informational. So a lot is from,
the timing of this is getting pretty good, because my, everything Jean just mentioned have been on my list for evening, including maybe art. Because
I've done that.
multiple people have asked for like watercolors or art class, and there's an opportunity to maybe art. But I've also been thinking about, we're doing a lot with a lot of presenters and quality presenters at Wellness Wednesday and Lunch and Learn. And it's already, we could probably carry, since we're getting a good response during the day, it could be very easy just to carry some of those over to get this ball rolling at some point. So lectures, concerts, different kind of classes,
Happy hour and learn.
happy hour.
last year it was, you mentioned art. I had taken a Zoom class, the artist, on a Sunday morning. It was great because there were some people who were working during the week, but they could do that.
Nutrition is another topic I'd love to see something on, and,
Nutrition's a bit tricky.
okay,
It wouldn't be my first, I wouldn't lead with it.
all right.
Let me put it that way.
I'll follow your lead. I brought it up because the Y has this Healthy Habits program, which I've participated in many times and found really helpful. And they have a nutritionist and a sports exercise person, and they pair up and they run these sessions. And it's just informational, and they've set groups, and it was all by Zoom. And it was really, really helpful. In fact, I had given Amy the name of one who was interested in doing contracting if we were interested. And she also reacted that it's complicated with nutrition, but something like that. I mean, so many people as they get older have special nutritional needs. And I know I'd find it really helpful. I'll take any help I can get in staying away from the sweets. But,
So
I
what I hear you talking about is basically programs by connection by Zoom at night, not actually people physically going into the center for some reason.
No, they're both.
They're both.
They're both. They're both.
I mean, Winchester has a very robust program of evening and weekend programs now. So,
A lot of places do.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as just opening the
No,
doors, though.
no,
And
it's
that's,
not.
and we're not,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
anything's possible. It's just,
So we've kind of gone,
We're
Yeah.
kind of wandering.
Let's get back on track.
yeah,
We're starting to lose our edge here in the call.
yeah.
Back to your point about the work group, Nancy, I'd be happy to help with, a work group related to the John Sasso, like whatever we want to put together. My feeling is that there's a need for the council to have an opinion at some point. I don't want to, because we're not in the heart of things and don't know where things are, come up with a combative, you didn't listen to us. But that's hard because we aren't integral. We don't have a real vote on anything. We're not consulted first. We aren't expected or encouraged or invited to weigh in on any of this. We elbow our ways into all these things, and we need an opinion, I think. And the opinion could be that you need the opinion of the Council on Aging, frankly.
So could we request a joint meeting of Recalc and COA?
We've got one coming up, I think.
Was that February 27th?
The architect.
28th.
Eighth
Is
now,
that-
yeah,
is the
most.
purpose
With the,
of that? No,
it's
it's with
no.
the architect.
Yeah.
Could we request that that's an agenda item?
We could, or we could ask to have a special meeting. We could invite Recalc and Select Board to our meeting. I mean,
Because we need to do something before town meeting in
Yes.
April.
I agree with that.
And so what would that look like?
I think as a first step, we need to have it acknowledged that we need to have a voice and, you know, a vote that counts on, like, they made the motion to support, based on that 49%, they made the motion at Recalc to support the intergenerational center. We didn't have any vote. I mean, I guess we could vote. I don't want to vote no, but what I would have voted if I had my way was, let's talk about it and make sure we really understand it, which goes back to all these questions I've been raising. And I don't feel that there was much understanding that went behind that.
And I would be concerned about a joint meeting of, 15 Council on Aging members and 15 Recalc members.
It's only
I
8.
think, well, 8. I think there needs to be a, I think this is really getting down to the nitty gritty. And it's the wording and it's the, so my preference, I hear what you're saying, Karen, and I agree, but I think there needs to be a document that can be worked off of prior to the two large groups getting together. That's just my.
Well, we had that document back in November. Could we work that document? Could we rework it in light of this draft summary?
We could.
Rena?
Was that the parking, the one that talked a lot about parking?
Yes.
Was it mostly,
Yeah,
oh, it was
accessibility.
mostly about Walgreens?
It
Okay.
was explicitly about
okay,
Walgreens.
all right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But what about just taking, not necessarily both committees, just a few from each committee and sit down and discuss what the concerns are from both sides and let them know that the seniors have this, and this that they want addressed and
Chris, do you
rectified.
have any thoughts about the best way to do this?
I don't. Yeah,
Marilyn and Nancy, you do.
I'm really encouraged by that last paragraph that you were reading.
Yes.
And I would love at this moment personally, for us to be able, and I don't think we're there tonight, but for us to be able to get to the point where the council can say, we're in support of that last paragraph.
yeah.
And that might be all it takes, frankly.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Don't mind me.
So,
So Marilyn, just sorry, quick question. So you're looking for the council to have a unified, a unified, not just opinion, but a unified stance on.
Something we take a vote on. This is our opinion about what we support for our needs. And again, that last paragraph in John Sasso's report, I think, I personally would be comfortable supporting that. I think it puts, we're not saying we don't want an intergenerational at all. We're saying priority has to be on seniors and then expand and as much as we can. It's a great thing to have something intergenerational. But it's balancing, it's putting the focus back where it started with the initial need that's documented. We don't have a need that's documented, to my knowledge, for something intergenerational. It just sounds good and makes such common sense. People kind of jump on, but we have a real need that's documented for the seniors and it needs to be addressed first. Otherwise, we're going to get someplace And the problem still isn't going to be solved. And, you know, we may have done, other problems might have gotten solved. It could be great for the community, but the one that started it all, we still won't have fixed it or, you know, ameliorated it as much as is possible realistically. So I would like for the council to be able to voice something that it supports. And for me, something like, and maybe it needs a little more wordsmithing on John's last paragraph, and I would love to work with him together if the recall committee is open to this.
I think
And
it's-
let's collaborate, because I think we do want the same thing. It's just we're bifurcated by these committee structures and things, and that isn't always helpful.
You're looking for this for April, right?
I'd like it by next month, frankly, because there's a lot, I mean, there's decisions going on about space and everything else.
How about, I'm gonna just throw this out
Yep.
and everybody can. How about, I give John Sasso a call since he does have that first iteration.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to his, actually. It's just a little reordered a little bit different.
It is.
And see if, what his thoughts are on meeting with a few Council on Aging members that would be interested in just adding, I'm trying to say it in a diplomatic way. I don't want to say rewrite the report, because that's not what we're doing.
But I wonder too, does he intend to revise it based on, because you already sent him information in response to this.
I don't know, that's why
And does- yeah,
I need to
that-
give him
yeah,
a
I
call.
think we could ask him, does he intend to revise it based on your feedback as well as the meeting last Wednesday? And if he says yes, then we could offer to support him.
Exactly.
And if he says no, we could ask him why not.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay.
And if worse came to worse and we found them supporting something that we really think didn't meet the primary need of addressing senior needs, and maybe we need to come out with a equally strong statement of this is what we support, which isn't to say we don't support that, but this is what we support, and maybe they can come around. I mean, it would be nice if I don't think we're very far apart.
No, I
honestly.
don't either.
I think if we can get the right dynamic here, we can come up with a joint opinion on this that would be great going to town meeting to at least know that all these groups see the same vision. Hi, Jenna, you joined us too.
That sounds like a good,
Yes.
that sounds like a good plan.
Okay.
So I will.
I see it in here, like another sentence. Recalc also maximizes work by involving the Council on Aging and other partners, it's noted above.
Yeah.
And then if you look at the next steps, I mean, I think it's there.
It is.
It is.
We just want it to be stronger.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
exactly.
right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do have to say, I've noticed, especially since last Tuesday's forum, within the past week and a half, you know, I think the good thing is a lot of people, everyone seems to be kind of coming together, which is really encouraging.
Mhm.
And it's really good to see, because I think for a while, there was a lot of different things from the left to the right, from every angle. And I think it's really, I'm excited and I'm glad to see that, you know, these conversations and people are coming closer together. And I think to some certain extent, realizing, you know, we're not gonna have a perfect space, but we're gonna have a really good space. And so I just want to throw that out there.
Thank you.
And one thing too, this is going back to your comment earlier, I did find the architect's rendering. And it does, did you see this? Did you share this?
I think it's the one I showed her. She's gonna double check it.
See this one, the proposed?
No,
So,
that I think is the original wall.
for the wall, it says proposed building approximately 9,700 square feet
Yeah.
plus approximately 4,300 square feet on the mezzanine.
Ah,
So just the first floor is 9,800 square feet.
okay.
And what is our present site?
Roughly, don't hold me to this, somewhere around 6 to 7,
It's
six-ish?
not, it's like 6-ish.
Yeah,
It's like 5,500.
With all levels though, like the base.
yeah, that's all three.
Going back to trying to get us collaborating and on board with something that's right for the town and reflects all the opinions. Something that's a challenge for us, I think, is knowing the timeline, knowing when Recalc plans to make a vote on something. Well, if we didn't know that was coming up, we don't have time to talk, or if they don't know we've been doing something, they don't have time to look at it. We need coordinated scheduling on figuring out what we want to communicate as the opinion of these committees, and a lot of work on both sides. And that's been really hard. We kind of feel blindsided quite often, frankly, find out, oh, that's what's on the agenda tonight. Well, yeah, anybody could be watching the agendas like a hawk, but who's got time? I mean, if someone were making a proactive effort to try to coordinate us, it would be a lot easier. And I think that we would be able to support each other much more effectively if we knew, if we can back up to, okay, Mark's lately been saying he doesn't think he's going to make it to April town meeting. He doesn't think it's going to be enough time. That was last week. By now, he might be gung-ho and thinks he's going to make it. We have no way of knowing. But what would be helpful going to town meeting, I'm sure, would be to say that Recalc and COA both support X, Y, and Z. But we need to coordinate our timing to make that happen.
So, can we get a meeting with,
I think the conversation with John Sasso is probably the starting point. And let's find out what the state of the draft is, because it may have evolved.
I say take it in steps, so let's do this first. And then-
Yeah.
Can we call an emergency meeting if we need to?
Yeah,
So we could call an additional meeting.
Yeah.
we can, but we
Yeah.
have to get the people there.
Towards the end of February.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could even plan one at this point, and if we don't need it, we could cancel it, but we could put one on the books.
That's a good idea.
Jenna, we could put one on the books.
Oh, I just raised my hand. Perfect timing. I was going to suggest, and I don't know if it's too early in the evening for folks to make it, but we're rescheduling that joint meeting on the 27th to the 28th.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if people can meet a little bit earlier to discuss that joint initiative before at either 5:30 or 6. Because we could just add it to that joint meeting. Recalc is meeting also on February 22nd to rediscuss the report. So I don't know what you discussed today, but if anyone wanted to give John Sasso the key points that you wanted to address, he could edit those in his report as well. And we can post to at the next Recalc meeting.
We've given them a lot of feedback, but that's exactly the kind of thing we need to know about. The 27th won't help us if they're gonna vote on the 22nd. So we need to be faster, or they need to slow down a little.
And I think we need to meet both. I think Council on Aging also needs a separate meeting.
To get our own opinion.
To get our own opinion and for
wording for
our
it.
voice to be consolidated. Not that it would be any different, but the words might be a little different or whatever, but
And we'll have voted on it.
yeah.
This is something we support. Doesn't mean we're not open to negotiation, but this is what we're looking for.
So you're thinking that we should meet before February 22nd?
Yes,
And have a collaborated and created a statement
yes,
to share with them.
yes.
So, good.
Great.
Good, so we need
So
to come
we
up with
need
a date. You'll have talked with John Sasso by then.
Yes.
The 22nd is a Wednesday. It's basically 2 weeks from now. And the 20th is a holiday, President's Day. If we could meet next week, that would be, I think, what we should be aiming for.
next week or the week after?
No.
No,
yeah,
22nd is the week after.
The 20th.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So
Calendar challenge.
What about the 13th, a week from today?
Yeah, the 13th.
Once
the
you-
13th, does that work for people?
Yep.
once you-
Yep.
Once once you try the 13th, and if you have some cushion there, if you need to change it, do it, try to do it earlier next week.
The 13th is
Yeah.
Monday next week. so-
Yeah, and that gives you a cushion, that gives you a cushion.
Yeah. So Jenna, can you help us set up a meeting for the 13th?
I sure can.
Thank you.
6:30 PM.
Yeah. And we'll have just the one agenda item. To come up with a position statement regarding however we want to word it.
That sounds great.
Will this be Zoom?
It's easier in person.
It's much easier in person, yeah. If we can do it in person somewhere, we could even do it over at the Pleasant Street Center if we had to.
Yep, it'll probably be in this room
Yeah.
again.
This is a
CPDC.
good room. This is
Okay,
great.
great. Yeah, I think CPDC will be in the other one. They just had to reschedule as well, so.
Okay,
So, yep, I'll plan it for this room and we could do hybrid, just like tonight.
sounds great. All right,
So then do we need to do that final agenda item?
no, I have really good news. I did not do my pre-work, so I don't have the main pre-work assignment ready for everybody. So we will postpone the pre-work. I did talk a little bit about it with Chris before everybody. But the 8:15 to 8:20 item is postponed till the next meeting.
So
So
we can vote to adjourn,
if someone makes a
move
motion,
to adjourn.
I second it.
thank you. Let me take the vote. Debbie Small? Debbie with us?
She left.
She left. Okay.
Um,
All right, Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes, Karen Janowski,
Yes.
Sally Hoyt, she's left too. Nancy Quadros.
Yes.
Jackie,
Nancy,
Jackie,
Rosemary D, I can't do it, Di Benedetto, Rosemary.
Yes.
I'm temporarily pointing you to fill in some.
Yes.
Okay, I believe we are at 6 now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think we need one more. Who else is here? Jean Prado.
Yes.
Okay. We have a majority of the voting members.
Is my understanding that after April, we can, Fidel, that we can no longer have hybrid meetings?
So the legislature passed a law last spring, after a lot of pressure, and they basically passed it the weekend that it was gonna expire, on Friday, to extend it until March of 2023.
Okay, but
The-
yeah. so-
The hope, I think, is that
Oh, no, it's
it's gonna be made into permanent law at some point, but
But it will expire
I,
unless they extend it.
oh, exactly. I think that hybrid is here to stay.
Yeah.
And I will say that I doubt that they will let it expire not do it. But
We've never
It's out of my
done
hands.
this. All right, the meeting is officially adjourned as of 8:13.
bye, Nancy.
Thank you, everybody. Good meeting.
If it else.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
thanks, Karen.
Which one?
All of them.
Welcome from all the parents.
Quick. I like that.
Nancy's.